Christopher. How you doing tonight?
Really fantastic, David. And how's the great traveler? You're zipping around all over the place here.
Yeah, it's been really nice. I've been really excited to travel around. I've gotten a lot of great experiences, and that's definitely a Jupiter week. I think we've kind of stepped out of a Jupiter week. We had the new moon trine Jupiter. We had Jupiter come direct. Talk about the experiences that can be had in all of us, or the visions that I feel this is bringing. Jupiter is ruled by Pisces as well. I think a lot of people forget that, and Sag, and both of those signs are about visions, seeing bigger, seeing all over the place, and I think that's where we're at right now.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. What I love about that alignment of Jupiter and Neptune is that you go all the way, across that board, and you can also tie in Venus because all three planets have a beautiful, watery, very soft kind of presence, and they have, one expands us, one takes us into the depths of the metaphysical realm, and the other expresses the day-to-day beauty of our lives as we're unfolding it. And one of the nice things about this new moon was the occasional interaction with Venus in the night skies. As we begin to see the moon starting to wax forward, and we had that beautiful crescent, lovely dark skies with a little dot of Venus in conjunction to the moon. So it had a very mystical kind of vibration to it. At least that was my experience.
I think there's definitely a mystical vibe going. We're in Pisces still. And this period really is this week is the meat and potatoes of Pisces. The sun here is 16 degrees. We're right in the middle. We've got a moon in Gemini, which is going to make its, the quarter square to the sun. And I think that this can be, I always think whenever you mix Gemini and you mix Pisces together, it can get a little jumbled all over the place because, one thing about Pisces and Gemini is they're both very duality kind of signs, and they both are mutable energy, and the energy's kind of switching a lot of things around right now. There's a lot of change we've gone through, and this Friday, there's a lot of curiosity, I think, on our lives of where this can go. Jupiter's opened a big door here in our life. There's a big new opportunity available for all of us. And I feel there's been a reset, I would say. This mystical energy kind of has disconnected us from our realities and, all the little things that we can get so caught up into, and really almost overblown us into these bigger visions, these bigger things to see. I think a lot of that also has to do with Mercury finally coming out of its retrograde and going direct and covering places that we've been reviewing for the last 3 weeks. I mean, this is definitely Mercury coming online, Jupiter coming online. Intellectually, we're starting to process and start to understand things more. And the universe is, I would say, clicking into gear this weekend.
Yeah, there is definitely a lot of strong forward motion. I think that a lot of people are beginning to sense. And there was a time there 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, when everybody was really feeling like they were stuck in concrete. And one of the things I'm watching right now as we continue to advance here on Friday, we've got this kind of a real edge starting to emerge between Saturn and Mercury. And I do think that we're going to be seeing some very interesting conversational issues come up over the next week or so. A lot of misinterpretation of the facts, because even though Mercury is moving direct, it is in square to Saturn that is moving backwards. So there is definitely, again, that tug of war going on as we have one planet advancing, the other planet retreating, and at the same time, Saturn is, it's preparing to finish up its journey through Scorpio. So it's going to start digging a lot of stuff up, and that may make people very impulsive. They may reveal things they don't necessarily want to reveal. So it's going to be an interesting week to watch how conversations and communication in general go.
Yeah, that's all that Gemini energy coming into the picture. But really, I think that's what you're picking up on is that Mercury square Saturn that happens this week. Because I think it's important for us to pay attention to what we feel on our inside. That Saturn in Scorpio is now retrograde. It's really reviewing some very deep emotional realms in our life, the hidden stuff. And one thing about Mercury and Aquarius is it doesn't like anything hidden. It wants to, be out there connected to things, out in the world, electricity, communication. It's an intellectual air sign. And we're trying to maybe put thoughts or even communication to these deeper feelings inside. Plus, Jupiter coming online in Cancer really does open up our feelings that maybe there are things that we want to get out. But the communication can be very, very stimulating because we might be able to finally get over some hard decisions we might be having to make. One thing is Mercury square Saturn can become difficult to make decisions because maybe our mind isn't seeing everything correctly. But I think that we're forced to maybe intellectually make some decisions in our life. Maybe we're forced to speak up more in order to find out what those decisions are. I think it would be hard if you don't speak up this weekend, or if you don't, use your mind correctly, or you don't process correctly. Mercury square Saturn means, also though, to pay attention before you say something. Make sure that you're not just spitting out that Mercury and Aquarius crazy, rebel, wild streak, and make sure that you're taking your time and processing. I think it'd be detrimental, though, to not say something, because there is, I think, a responsibility to step up and communicate.
Exactly, and I think midweek we're going to see the extra edge added to that particular interaction, because we're going to be watching Mercury as it continues to advance, come in trine to Mars in Libra, and Mars is also going backwards. So we do have kind of an interesting set of retrogrades going on: Mars in Libra, Saturn in Scorpio, and Mercury finally saying, "Hey, I'm out of here. I'm leaving right now." And of course, as it continues to unfold, ultimately over the next few weeks, Venus is going to be following Mercury's journey, its path through that same region. So this could be a very pivotal point for a lot of people, especially in the level of relationships. And like I said, that tendency to undo yourself by revealing too much. So I would say this is a good time for people to be very, very mindful and think before you speak and think before you take action.
Definitely. Mars is in a retrograde, and Venus in Aquarius, finally this Venus energy gets a break. Poor Venus has been stuck in Capricorn for 3 months. Then Venus squared the nodes, coming out of this week. And then Venus actually opposed Black Moon Lilith, which just came into Leo. But here's Venus this week in a free zone for the first time in a long while. And this can be some very exciting things in relationships. This could finally be some relationship energy moving in directions you've wanted to see, or, really starting to light up. But it's so funny that the moon is going to be in Cancer as we start Monday, and it's going to come over Jupiter, which has come direct. So our feelings get really big, our emotions get really, there's going to be a gift. I think that there's something special this week that starts. But you're right. Mercury is squaring Saturn. Mercury is trining Mars. Take your time, especially with the moon on Jupiter and Venus coming. We could just jump into something so fast. And it's like, whoa. And especially because if we really look at this week, this is one of the more mellow weeks of the month. It's definitely a very beautiful Pisces time. This is also, Lent has started in the Catholic religion. There's people, really right now taking a moment in their life and letting go of something. And I think part of Pisces is the energy to let go, to surrender, to find your higher vibration. And you don't want to maybe jump into things that might tempt you into maybe holding on to things you're trying to let go of. That's part of Pisces, is make sure you're not unconscious, make sure you're aware. And Neptune, is very potent right now. It's been moving forward. It's come out of its stationary position, and it's getting ready. It's coming out of its shadow period. Neptune is going to come to 6 and 7 degrees here this spring. It went retrograde at 5 degrees last year. So we are about to step out of this Neptune energy shadow and move into an area we've never been in our lives, of deeper meaning, deeper connection to spirit, more mystical energy, more fantasy-like. But you want to make sure you're developing the right fantasy in your life, because being in the wrong fantasy could actually turn into be a nightmare sometimes.
Most times when you're in the wrong fantasy, you discover all of the hidden issues that have been lurking in the background, and that can be very challenging, absolutely. The other thing, though, that I'm observing with this Piscean period is exactly as you had said, we have moved into that period of Lent. And Lent was a 40-day celebration that is associated with that time that Jesus, the great mystical Piscean, removed himself from society and went out into the desert and confronted his ego, confronted the meaning of his own personal existence in this material world. And I think that this passage with Jupiter in trine to Neptune, and then Jupiter moving with the Sun forward now, both of them in that region of Cancer, Pisces. I think a lot of self-revelation and self-understanding is right at the base, floating to the surface. And if people will practice meditation, if they will disengage and find that break during the week, that Mercury influence will come in, and those visions, those understandings, that comprehension of why am I here? What is the meaning of life? What is the meaning of my life specifically? And why am I a participant in this particular, scenario on the planet? All of these things can start to come together so that you are ultimately arriving at a much bigger life vision than perhaps you had perceived yourself becoming a participant in the past. So this could definitely be like the crest of the wave, where you're getting above the rest of the waves out there. You're getting to that high point, and you're seeing the shore. You're seeing these cycles of movement around you, and understanding the meaning of it.
Yeah, and this is a big time. We've got 3 big planets, Jupiter, Pluto, Uranus, making a T-square. That usually means some big things are happening on the planet, big conscious awareness. Before Chris and I started this show, we were describing how amazing our lives are going and how life can be. But this can also be a period where if you're not, connected to your true authentic self and you're not doing your work, a big T-square with outer planets and Jupiter, if you want to kind of break this down kind of logically, Jupiter, the planet of fortune and good luck and door openings, is an intense T-square with 2 outer planets that are battling each other out. That, in order to open the right doors in your life and to find the optimism and hope, there's definitely hard work that it takes to get there. Strict work, I'd say, to get there. You have to be living in your truth. You have to be doing your emotional work. You have to be identifying correctly with your ego. You got to be using your ego in the right way. And then Pluto and Capricorn means you got to have the right system in place, whether that's the job that you're working or the way that you set up your reality. There's definitely a powerful time here to become aware, to have your life work correctly. And after this big transit we've had over the last week of the new moon and all this Jupiter energy and all the planets switching gears like we've been talking about, really, I think now the big powerful showdown is this big T-square, where can we have the right jobs, the right destiny, the right secure foundations, and can it all identify correctly and who we are, and can we continue to have the courage to move forward? And I think that's the way to look at your life. If you feel like it's too hard to keep pushing your life and you feel like you're retreating and you need to stop, that's a good definition that you're probably in the wrong spot, and to totally change teams or change energies or move to a different energy source. Because during this time, it's kind of make it or break it, but the make it is extremely good and the break it is extremely bad. It's almost like, especially the Scorpio realm, we don't see much gray.
Yeah, that's very true. And, in association with the activity of Jupiter in opposition to Pluto and Uranus in Aries, they're filling out that square, you also have to go back and really factor in the meanings of these different signs. And when we look at the charts for the United States, we have the Sun in Cancer at about 15 degrees, depending on how you place the actual event of America being launched as a nation. And we did have Pluto in Capricorn at that time. And interestingly enough, though, in this cycle, it's Uranus filling out this T-square in Aries, the placement of the personal ego. And so a lot of people, I think, are going to get a bigger understanding of who they are in relationship to the national vision of who do you want to be or who should you be. And I think that we're going to see a lot of people discovering something beyond nationalism and beginning to realize that the power of this government is flowing through each individual, every one of us who are here. And within that process, we can start to make significant positive changes for the future. So this particular T-square is going to fill out in a way that everybody is going to have some kind of a sense of relevance to the process of the future of our nation and the future of their particular position within our society, their region of participation, their region of contribution, their region of vision as it is applicable to us as a national group.
I'm so happy that you brought that up because it's been on my conscience a lot lately. This energy is really affecting the chart of America. And Pluto in Capricorn is affecting every nation. It's affecting every person in restructuring who you are. I mean, if you look at a building, this is where you've got to bring the building up to code, and you've got to reset the base, and you've got to reset the way that the whole structure works. Capricorn does rule the bones and the skeleton. It also rules the skin. But what it does is it rules the complete form of the body and how it stays together. We all have a structure in our body. It's our bones. And sometimes our bones can get old and deteriorated and worn out, and we need to either do hip replacements or we need to make them stronger. And I'd say that this is a time where in our lives we've all had to replace some bones, or we've all had to replace the structure of our lives. Or here in California, we have earthquake code, so we've got to restructure the buildings to make sure that they're structure proof for an earthquake. In our lives, this is what the universe is doing. And the faster you get on this train and you restructure your life, because not one person or one nation is going to be able to say, nope, I'm perfect and I get away with it all and I don't have to restructure nothing. BS, because nobody's coming out of this. Pluto in Capricorn is way too powerful and way too strong, and we've had it here since 2008, and it's being affected intensely by a lot of planets, which definitely shows that this would be a very strong spot to pay attention to. This also has to do with your own rules you set up. This has to deal with kind of the Republican way, if we were to put like an easy way to describe this, which is kind of an old conservative spot, which is forcing ourselves to let go of old positions we might be holding on to, old rules we set up for ourselves, because Pluto coming into Capricorn definitely sets the new tone. Before I go back to you, Chris, I want to bring up that Pluto before 1776, when it was in Capricorn, was actually in Capricorn during the 1530s. This was when the Catholic Church was in control of every nation. The kings, whether it was the King of England or the King of Germany or the Emperor of any other country, had to actually take orders from the Catholic Church. You couldn't divorce your wife, a queen, like King Henry VIII wanted to, unless, guess what? You got approval from the Catholic Church, even though you're a king. And so what did King Henry VIII do? He said, F you to the Catholic Church, closed the door with them, created the Church of England, and recreated religion completely from the ground up and restructured the way that it worked. He's the one who started to also implement that people could, in local towns, come to Parliament and speak whatever they wanted to, because the people were starting to rebel against him, and that was the only way to keep the rebellions off. So this is a cycle that comes right back around now this way 250 years later.
Yeah, it does seem like we are the third wave, I guess you could say, in this evolutionary force that that Pluto exerts on nations around the planet. And it also is very appropriate because a lot of people do believe that we are moving out of the Piscean era and advancing into the age of Aquarius. And if that is in fact accurate, we probably are seeing the last transit under the heavy Piscean vibration of having Pluto move through Capricorn and bring a lot of these old issues about spirituality, religion, structure, government. All of these things are coming to the surface now for final resolution. So as we're moving closer and closer to the true expression of the Aquarian era, the dawn of the Aquarian age, it does seem like it is putting all the players on the chessboard in exactly the right position so that the old realm falls away and something exciting and new and dynamic emerges out of 2,000 years of trials and tribulations.
Yeah, and what a great time to be alive, and an exciting time to be alive. And this week, really, I mean, I think we're a blessed week. We've got Jupiter direct, we've got the moon, which is going to touch that. And there's definitely a gift this week. The moon's in really good positions this week. And Mercury is going to come off of Saturn. That I think midweek, once Mercury comes off Saturn and it really kind of comes out of this week, I think there's even more to be happy about. We have the moon in Leo this week. That comes in midweek and it ends the week with this. And it's going to oppose Mercury in Aquarius for the last time. We're going to have this, opposition. And this has to deal with sparking up your heart. I think Leo and Aquarius definitely deal with the signs of light, of inner love, of connection, of power, and the fixed signs of fire and air, This is an energy of, are you happy? And it's time to be happy. I think that it's time to be happy. I think that's a huge aspect with Black Moon and Lilith coming in. Be happy. Jupiter's going to come here into Leo this summer. And the universe is, I think, starting to show that you can be happy. It doesn't matter if there's a huge cardinal cross in the sky like comes in April, and there's all this fear that could be pushed around the world. Your own happiness determines that. And I think this week there's a lesson to spark up your life, enjoy life again, see where this new open door has come into your life, and start to find that inner peace. This is a North Node in Libra now, and it's here to find that happiness.
Exactly. And the other nice thing that's going on right now is that disconnect that we're watching as the nodes make that final passage away from, mud city. We had water and earth for the last couple of years with node activity. Now we're all of a sudden moving closer and closer to actually seeing the spark and actually getting that explosion, that combustion going on. And that's going to bring a lot of release from a lot of karmic, what's the word for it, where we're bogged down in our own karma. Even if it was just the karma of, driving through Mickey D's this morning and getting a bad sandwich, just all of those personal experiences of that heaviness, of the darkness of the old karma is really going to start to shift away now. I think a lot of us have done all the work that we needed to do. We're able to release our attachment to the past, and we're able to get a clear vision of what we want to create for the future rather than what we have to endure for the future. So yeah, this whole week has been, this whole new moon has been in fact a very powerful trigger for a lot of upcoming expressions of personal growth, expressions of desire for personal fulfillment, and making that in alignment with everybody else on the planet, creating a will where you want the best for you as well as for everybody around you. So I think the collective is definitely feeling one more cycle of awakening.
Yes, there's definitely, and that's Pluto Uranus square too. I think it's about mass collective awakenings that are very intense and they're not easy. That's Pluto square Uranus. Uranus is the planet of collective energy, people, society. And when Pluto squares it, well, there'll be change, but a square means it won't be simple. And it definitely is going to affect people and fears and inner emotion and things that we like to hide being sometimes popped up. And that's Pluto. Pluto represents Halloween in my book, so there's a Halloween in all of us. We've all been spooked. It doesn't matter who you are. We've had a spooky thing happen. And we're halfway through this. Pluto and Uranus get out of their square in 2015. So, you know, we're halfway through. It's been going on since 2012. We're in 2014. We're used to this now. It's like the spooks don't scare us as much anymore. I think that we've all grown up a little bit. I think we've all grown a little bit of tougher skin here. And that's exactly what our last couple generations went through. You know, my grandparents were born during the Great Depression, but their parents went through a Pluto-Uranus square, and there was a tough aspect to them. And they taught their kids to not overspend, to not overdo. Well, we're in a time, don't build your life in the wrong direction anymore. It's not about money anymore. This is about, like, don't pick the stupid road anymore and do something that you don't want to do and do something that everybody else is doing that leads to a closed door. That's kind of, I think, the mentality now. I think that it's like, that's Capricorn, though, as the Pluto square, not Cancer, which was security. Security isn't the issue anymore. People realize that it's more secure to have a destined path that lasts for your whole life and helps you and guides you in the right destiny, opposed to being secure with money and being unhappy.
That exactly is that vibration that we're currently working with. Is I guess in a lot of ways that movie with Bill Murray, Scrooge, would be a good little allegory for the placement of the planets right now. Go back and review that movie and think about the content of your life. Well, it looks like it's time for us to pull a couple of cards here.
Wonderful.
So, yeah, the first one, as we move into this weekend, it is a kind of a calming down period, and this weekend gives us the Nine of Pentacles, a little more serene, a little less chaotic. Really, you know, getting past that new moon conjunction energy going to the first quarter over the weekend, we'll see things kind of fall into place without having to put a lot of attention or focus on moving things around. It's like let things happen in their own way, and they'll settle into that place that you want them to arrive at. Then, as we begin to move out of the weekend and into the first of the week, I see this card, the Six of Cups, as having a lot to do with the activity of Mercury as it's going through this process of being in square to Saturn. And we were talking about how you can reveal too much. You know, this is a card of the past, going back and connecting to the past, bringing up old memories. So you want to make sure that you're not re-engaging and creating the same drama over and over again in your life. Be mindful of what you say speaks the vibration into the universe around you, and it does cause a reaction in the universe that you inhabit. The third card is, as we're moving into midweek, this is that beautiful Ace of Pentacles, Ace of Coins. This is a card of manifestation, and we really are in a nice period here of being able to see our manifestations come into physical form. So, you know, you may have it manifested in your mind's eye, but this week you're going to have the option of being able to bring it into manifestation in the material world. Mid and later in the week, we're getting a lot of that Venusian energy kicking in. We have the Queen of Cups. After that edgy energy of Mercury in square to Saturn, we're going to see Venus start to move forward here, and healing, feminine kind of vibration coming from that direction. And these are words that can heal old wounds. So keep that in the back of your mind this coming week. When the opportunity arises for you to resolve old wounds from the past, allow them to be healed and reach out to others and try to heal them in the process. We end the week with the Universe card, the World card, opening ourselves up. As you can see, this feminine form in the card is, you know, arms spread wide to embrace the entire universe, the entire cosmos that she inhabits. And that really is the vibration that we want to continue to explore and share with others, is embracing the beauty of our existence and embracing our destiny that we're creating for ourselves. So a very powerful week according to the cards.
Yeah, and I like that it really represented the week really well. I think they were all very positive cards, and I like that we end with the World card. That's definitely the Moon in Leo opposed Mercury in Aquarius. Like, how do you really feel about your heart? And are you ready to open up? And that's a big signal now. Jupiter's direct. One thing about Jupiter is he likes to be on the adventure forward. He doesn't like to go backwards because that usually means that it's kind of like when you're stuck at the airport and you can't leave. You know, there's a lot to review on your trip that you were just on and so forth. But Jupiter direct is when we're on the adventure again. And we've got a nice 8-9 months here of being on the adventure. That's one thing about Jupiter. It's the biggest planet. It's rejuiced. It's recharged. We're all allowed to move forward in our lives and explore all these new realms and look at all the options. There's so many possibilities right now in your life, and don't waste that.
Exactly, and don't spend a lot of time doing the retrograde. Don't try to paddle your canoe against the current. Don't try to overwhelm the direction that the universe is asking you to flow in and flow with. And that really is a strong and powerful lesson of Jupiter as it moves through each sign of the zodiac is how are you going to flow? You know, this is the current. This is the way we want things to go. And if you're willing to surrender your need to buck the system, this could be a very powerful advancement week for you. So, you know, I think everybody needs to realize that they do have the power. It is within them. It is a part of our internal design, and all we have to do is invoke it. We can call upon it and manifest it.
Well, what a wonderful week, you know. I think that this is going to be super positive, and I think that there's a lot for us to become aware of the directions to take in our life, and I think that relationships are going to go very well this week. And I think that even though we can jump into things really quick here, just take a little pause and make sure that you check the temperature of the water before you take a dive.
Absolutely. Well, David, it was great being able to chat with you and get the inside skinny on your adventures there in Hollywood. I mean, you were able to actually rub shoulders with the people that are giving us the entertainment that we all so much appreciate as we're caught up in the day-to-day extremes. We all kind of need to bail and go hang out in Hollywood every once in a while, and you've actually done it. So how cool is that?
Yeah, what an experience. Talk about a new moon trine Jupiter. I was in the middle of that one, and it'll be an experience I never forget, you know, to walk the red carpet, to be there with, like you said, all the great actors and actresses and people behind it. You know, one thing about the Oscars, which I loved, is meeting the people behind it, meeting the people who run the studios, meeting the directors, meeting the producers, meeting people. There's a lot of people behind that. And I think that's what I came out of this with is, wow, you know, I've been in television my whole life, so I've seen behind the scenes and been on big TV shows, but I've never been in film. And there's so many people in film. There's animation. There's all these beautiful things, and it's so Pisces. You know, the Oscars, of course, is in Pisces, and film is ruled by Pisces. And I think in our own lives, what a great way. Are you making your story like a fantasy movie, or is it a movie that nobody wants to watch, including yourself? And I think that's a good way to end this week.
Absolutely, yes. Get away from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and embrace Disney in your own personal experience.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Christopher. It was a wonderful show, and I look forward to talking to you next week.
Yes, I think we're both going to have a great week. Thank you, David.
All right. Talk to you then.
Okay, bye.